Do you hear that morning lawn in the back?
Mm-mm.
Great.
Good evening, everyone. We're just giving folks a few more minutes to join us. Thank you for your patience and welcome. Buenas noches. Estamos dándole unos minutos a la persona que entren al Zoom. Gracias por su paciencia. While we wait for people to join, please feel free to use the chat. Let us know who you are, and where you're joining us from. We love to get to know who's here tonight. When you have a small group, you can welcome everyone personally. Welcome Jorge Castro from Harlem Hospital. Frederick Marte, thank you for joining us. I know we've been doing Zoom for 5 years now, but I don't know how much time do you give people.
I
I
believe
still don't know.
I believe that he said we have about 40 participants coming. So I think people are still trying to join.
All right, we'll give them a few more minutes.
I see one of the coalition 2025-2026 cohort members in the attendees. Hello, Frederick.
Yeah, shout out to Frederick.
We see you. Wow, that sounded more creepy than it needed to be. Yes, we see you and welcome.
We see you. He knows what you meant.
I think one more minute, Maria, and we can start.
Yeah. Just so we can be respectful of those that joined on time. All right, I think we can get started. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this convening that's being hosted and sponsored by the National Dominican Day Parade. I am Maria Lizardo, and I am one of the parade board members, and it's an honor to have you here tonight. We are more than just a parade. We love throwing this annual party on the second Sunday of every August along 6th Avenue. But for us, we are more than a parade. We do focus on the cultural aspects of the Dominican diaspora and elevating that, as well as making sure that we are raising funds to support students of Dominican descent on their educational quests. We recognize how important education is. So for us, that is one of the core elements. And then during the year, we also host these different workshops, because we do have a responsibility to make sure that we are in tune with what is happening in the Dominican community, and that we identify experts in the fields who can then share resources and information. And so we thank you for joining us tonight. Now we will have a short video from our board chair, Cristina Contreras, who is currently the Chief Executive Officer of New York City Health and Human Hospitals, Lincoln. She's a trailblazer, and she has served as our board chair for the last couple of years, really making sure that the Dominican diaspora, our culture, is known throughout New York City and throughout the United States. So we will now hear briefly from Cristina.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cristina Contreras, and tonight I speak to you not only as the chair of the board of directors for the National Dominican Day Parade, but also as a proud Dominican woman, part of the community, someone who felt the pain that we all felt. A terrible collapse happened in Santo Domingo. It was more than just a tragedy. It was a painful moment that touched family, friends, and our whole community, not only in the Dominican Republic, but in the rest of the world. That is why tonight it's so important. This year our theme is more than words, Quisqueya and USA, unidos por cultura y tradición. Tonight we present a journey forward, a collective grief, collective strength. This is a time for us to share our sadness and also to find strength together. We are honored to welcome two amazing women to help guide this conversation. One of them is very close to me, Luisa Lopez, a good friend of mine, Executive Director of the Latino Social Work Coalition and a Scholarship Fund, Inc., and Yurilka Hernandez, the founder of Psychotherapy and Consultation Group Services. Their care experience and love for our people will help us talk, hear, and move forward. Thank you all for being here tonight, and let's take this journey together.
Thank you, Cristina. I think that was beautifully said. So without any further ado, I will introduce two of my favorite social workers in the world. I too am a social worker, and for me it is an honor to be in this journey and in the field with the amazing Luisa Lopez and Yuri Hernandez, who are here with us tonight to really walk us through this grieving journey and to really make sure that we have some of the tools in place that we need so we can begin healing, but also that we can make sure that our community also heals. As a Dominicana, it was a very painful and tragic moment for us, and it is one that we will never fully recover from. But with support from people like social workers, I want to keep saying social workers because we're just that special. Social workers like Luisa and Yuri, we can definitely be in a better place. So Yuri and Luisa, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this important conversation. My name is Luisa Lopez, and I am the Executive Director of the Latino Social Work Coalition and Scholarship Fund. The coalition is an organization that is committed to strengthening the pipeline of Latino and bilingual social workers across New York State and beyond. We do this through mentorship, through scholarships, through leadership development, and through legislative advocacy, which is all rooted in cultural competence and community care. We were born from the belief that representation in the social work profession isn't just a nice idea or something that's nice to have. It is a necessity. Our communities deserve to be supported by professionals who speak our languages, who understand our traditions, and who carry our stories. And we deserve a mental health workforce that doesn't just serve us, but reflects us. I want to start by thanking our partners at the National Dominican Day Parade, people like Maria Lizardo here tonight for holding space for collective healing in our community after the tragic events of last month. And most especially to the board of directors and your chair, Cristina Contreras, for her leadership in the days immediately after the tragedy. With that, I want to pass it over to my co-facilitator, my colleague, and my friend, Yuri Hernandez, who will introduce herself and share a little bit about her practice.
Good afternoon, good evening, actually. It's an honor to be here and share space with all of you. I am Yurilka Hernandez, aka Judy. Everybody calls me Judy, is my preferred. I've not only I have my own private practice, but I'm also part of the coalition board as a secretary. I myself was a scholar recipient years ago. And it's honor to me to be able to serve and give back to my community that I hold so dear as a social worker. I started my practice exactly because of moments like this, moments where you're looking for any space where you can speak your own language, you can feel your own feelings, and it's como tener un café with your neighbor, just to talk to things, talk through the impact that this has in our community, not just because it happened in in my country when I was born and raised for most of my life, but in a place where people were celebrating, where I saw joy, happiness, and such a special moment. Um, and then such a tragedy impacted all of us by watching. I'm here to hold space for all of you, share with you some of our journey, and hopefully we can come up with a little more hope and a brighter tomorrow. And I believe we can start our presentation. I believe it's getting done in the back end, and it should be up shortly. I can tell you a little of my practice. My practice is called Psychotherapy Consultation Services. We provide services in multiple languages: Spanish, English, Portuguese, and French. We have a diverse cohorts, and the French comes from the part of Dominican Republic that has a Haiti community to it. I want to be able to serve everyone equally. We take fully insurance because this is not a self-pay practice. We prefer people to use the insurance, to use the resources they have. If you cannot afford pay out of pocket, and if you cannot pay because you don't have insurance, we do offer free pro bono services for people who need it. And those are attended just like anyone else. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us through the coalition, which we partner with. And I believe our presentation is somehow up.
Thank you. Thank you, Yuri. Thank you so much. So while the presentation sorts itself out, I'm just going to start talking and it will catch up. I have faith. So this event tonight is really a response to the deep grief that we have felt, especially following the recent tragedy at the Jet Set nightclub in the Dominican Republic. We want to take tonight to reflect, to honor, and to begin the journey towards healing together. Before we dive in, we want to ground this space with purpose. Today is about honoring those that we've lost and acknowledging that healing happens in community. It does not happen in isolation. We recognize that grief is, in its many iterations, is a reflection of love. And it's our love of community, of our home country, if you are Dominican, that brings us here. Grief shouldn't isolate us, it connects us. And in times of tragedy, solidarity and unity are some of the most powerful tools that we have in order to combat that. We're going to start by taking a collective breath and hold a moment of silence to honor the lives lost in the Jet Set tragedy and others whose lives have been taken so soon. Please take a moment to center yourself, to close your eyes if you are comfortable, and to remember those that you are holding in your heart. Thank you. May we carry their memory with intention and let our grief move us towards healing, towards justice, and towards each other. Next slide, please. Yuri, you can take it away.
So what is collective grief? Collectively is a shared response that impacts the loss of entire community. We have many examples of collective grief, right? We experienced that in 9/11. We experienced that when Haiti had the devastating earthquake. And most recently, we experienced through Gaza, the devastation that is happening in that country. And now the Jet Set, which is one of the follows, the biggest in all countries that we have experienced. I did my little research because it was very impactful. And it's felt through generations, through walls, to oceans. It's something that happens all of us at the same time, not at the same moment, because we didn't watch the news. If you might think, where were you when you received the news, or when you heard about it, when you learned about it? It was impactful to you. It was something that was taken out. We also the videos as a community. We saw the devastation. We saw people looking for their loved ones, people trying to come out of those crumbles. It was a devastation. We all prayed together at one moment. I know the coalition in conjunction with Nani did a beautiful hotline for people to call in if you needed to speak to somebody. Collective grief is meant to be treated collectively in a community, and this is why this space has been created. Next slide, please. We have 5 stages of grief. Denial is the one that we cannot believe that this happened. Then we have the anger, when we actually realize it happened, but we're so angry about it that we cannot even experience what it is that we feel at the moment. We cannot articulate our feelings, our emotions. We feel displaced. Then it comes bargaining, when we start trading anything that we might have in order for us to get that moment back. It doesn't mean that you don't know that this happened, but you just wish so hard it did not, it wasn't true, that your feelings, your own, make you feel like you're in a different dimension, in a different space, where we just want to give anything, even our own lives, we will bargain just to get what we lost. Depression. Depression comes in after denial, anger, and burgundy have. It's no more options. There is nothing else that you can do to go back and get that moment. There is nothing else that can happen that can give you that person back. So now you've depressed, the sadness and the numbness, the processing of the feelings that you tried to avoid for a while are there. They knock on your door, and all you had to do is invite them in. And that's devastating to a lot of people. Then it comes acceptance, the moment that we accept that this happened, and it's at the moment when we start processing our loss, when we start processing our feelings, when we start healing. Today, we hear in memory of acceptance, on the process of how do we heal from now, how do we move forward, how do we continue day to day, accepting that this huge thing happened to our community, and it's still very recent. It's just been a month. So it's still very painful. It's a wound that is not going to get healed tomorrow. But this is a great start. Next slide, please. So next, Luisa is going to walk us through some of the things that we do in our culture in order for us to deal and start healing and process.
Thank you. So our grieving process as Dominicans is heavily rooted in our culture. We don't grieve quietly or passively. We gather, we sing, we pray, and some of the traditional Dominican mourning practices you may already be familiar with. You may have already seen in our communities, both here in the diaspora and in the Dominican Republic, things like novenarios, velorios, either private or public, community gatherings, vigils. These have all been um, really strong statements of the level of grief that our community has experienced this past month. And they aren't just rituals; they are spaces of collective strength. We have cried together. We have told stories together. We have convened and prepared meals for one another. These are traditions that keep our loved ones present, and they help to help us begin to heal. And I want to say something about how the nature of this tragedy in particular has impacted so many people. And it's because there were several very well-known individuals who died during this tragedy, people that we may have grown up listening to, people like Ruby Perez, who was a cultural ambassador for us as an artist, as a carrier of our music and our culture across the world. And that kind of grief when you lose someone like that, and the closest thing that I can honestly remember was when Selena died many years ago, where even if you didn't know this person personally, you felt like you did. And their passing was something that we felt so strongly, even though this wasn't a person that we had ever spoken to or had a relationship with. We had a para relationship with them, and they brought us joy when they were alive. So the fact that they are no longer here was a very traumatizing experience. This is exactly the same thing that happened during the Jet Set tragedy. So I just wanted to highlight that. I've had conversations with colleagues that are not Latinos, that are not Dominican, who were a little bewildered by the expressions of grief in our community, and I had to explain to them, this was a person that you grew up being a fan of, a fanatic of, and when they're no longer, you think they're going to live forever because they're a superstar, and now they're no longer here, taken way too soon before their time. So I just wanted to highlight that, and then also, these are reflections, these different things that we have seen both in DR and here, are reflections of unity. Our grief in Dominican culture is a collective act of love, the same way that our collective personality as Dominicans is to be cheerful, to be loud in instances, to be prayerful, to be tender, and to be rooted in our community. Our reflections of unity and our traditional mourning practices also reflect that as well. Next slide. Yuri.
Thank you, Luisa. Um, let's start talking a little bit more about, the day and what happened and how we kind of, it can be a long effect. Um, I asked you earlier, where were you when this happened? When you saw the news. Um, I can tell you where was I. I actually was exactly at Dominican Republic. I was sharing with family. I woke up, my mother said, "Hey, somebody said check on me to see if I was okay." And I said, "Oh, what happened?" She's like, "Oh, it was something they just said last night. But we haven't seen the news. In DR, you really don't sit down to watch news in the morning. You on the go." Um, Next thing you know, actually that previous photo that Luisa put, the memorial happened in my town. I'm from San Cristobal, and in San Cristobal, about 30 families lost someone. We had the largest population in the tragedy. So for me, it was very personal, and it affected my community very much directly. um, I remember that I was, not really taking, because for me it was like a fight or something that happened, like big one, and that was that. And then the photos started coming out, and then everything started coming out. And for me personally, as a human being, the most impactful moment for me was when I saw all my people dancing, having fun in the videos, and enjoying this amazing singer, Ruby Perez, and the life and the love and the happiness that was in that space was taken so fast. It was minutes that everything went into tragedy. The effect that that has on me, uh, immediately I went into panic mode. I started thinking, life is so fragile. Sometimes we live and we walk through life and we're not thinking about this because we are always on the go. And on the go, we really don't think about those things. But I immediately went into protective mode. I started thinking about my daughter. I had to think about, if something so tragic can happen and I'm involved in that, who's going to take care of her? How she's going to be okay? Who's going to raise her? Right? I went into all this anxiety, all of these emotions. And I would never feel what any one of those families felt or are feeling, or in the space, whoever was able to come out or it was surrounded. But the anxiety and that fear that this event inflicted of me, just by watching the devastation that went from happiness, loud music, loud love, and all these beautiful stories that come out. People that were there because they were celebrating anniversaries, surprises, people that scrap money so they can surprise their spouses for their birthdays and things like that. It was community. It was what defines our population. It was what defines my nation, my country. It's a happy place, the place that you go and it's full of love and full of music. So seeing all of that taken away in a second, it literally put a hole in my heart. Community disruption are things that we see day to day. We experience here in New York City in the train station. We hear people fighting. We hear all these commotions happening. And a lot of times we don't have the time to grieve or see things the way they are, but then we see it and we experience it. How can you reveal from that? When a community is still bleeding, when their families still, fighting to get recognition for who they are and to be acknowledged, this happened. And this happened and it was a magnitude that happened. And it was just not a legend, Rui Perez passing away. It was 225 families that were affected. And they had names, they had family, they had children. And putting that all in context as a community makes you reflect, it makes you think. But it also allows us to be part of healing our community and being able to do the work that we do as social workers. How we provide a space for people, how this space was created, how the coalition has created space, how Manny has created space. Everyone immediately went straight into action to protect those around and being able to create a safety net so people can process their emotions. We did a beautiful job in coming together for our community and representing across the world. So we saw Spain, we saw Morocco, we saw Dubai, we saw New York, we saw many countries played honor to those lives. And it just happened in the Dominican Republic. For the amount of people and the amount of around the world that responded to this, it was stunning to see because everybody saw the same video that I saw, which was people laughing, loving, singing, dancing, living for the moment. Community-led healing. I think Luisa mentioned earlier, when things like this happen, we don't heal in isolation. We don't even heal completely in one-on-one therapy, right? Because you are processing your emotions, but then you leave out in the world and then you run into another person and another person, and you probably will be able to share what you learn in your own space. And only you might be able to help another person who did not go to therapy. We have rooted mental health services. We have collective rituals, like Luisa mentioned, right? A mí me encanta ir a los funerales dominicanos porque te dan galletica y café. ¿Verdad? Si tú no me das galletica y café, I'm not going to be able to celebrate with you, right? Now we play music. Recently, I saw somebody that had a whole funeral and the person loved bikes and they had a whole bike in there. I was like, that's very cool. The way that we celebrate our losses is a clear representation of who we are and our cultures and our values. Our rituals are deeply, deeply rooted on how our culture has shaped us. Y los velorios, y los 7 días, y la cuarentena. We might not bring casserole over, pero le traemos un sancochito y una sopa y café. Next slide, please. I think Luisa is you up.
Sure. So healing as resistance. Yuri touched on this earlier. Choosing to heal really is an act of resistance. It says that our community matters, that our pain matters, and that our stories matter. We've seen in the past when folks have died, there have been support groups There has been art, there have been rituals, there has been advocacy. These are all the ways that we transform our grief into power. And healing doesn't have to mean that we are forgetting, that we're putting the tragedy or what happened out of our minds. It means that we're finding a way to carry the pain with purpose. So the community-based efforts that we have seen are a big part of that. And in healing, we reclaim our power and we preserve the ability to hold on to those memories that we of the folks that we have lost while building something better for those that remain. So I encourage everybody to really see community healing, creating community spaces as a form of resistance against a very westernized and dare I say, whitewashed way of looking at how we heal as individually and as a community, because it does not happen in isolation, and it cannot happen fully in isolation. Next slide. So collective strength across the diaspora. What we witnessed over the past month is proof that even across countries, across oceans, we as Dominicans move as one. When the jet set tragedy happened, the ripple effect, like Judy said, was immediate across the world, and the response was immediate across the world. And I want to uplift something that Judy also just said, that it wasn't just celebrities that we lost in this tragedy. It was, what was the number, Yuri, again?
227 families.
227 souls were lost that night. A vast majority of them working class people. I also want to uplift the people that were working that evening, not just the people that were celebrating. A vast majority of them women, which we know are a huge part of the workforce, of the entertainment and tourism workforce in the Dominican Republic. So I do want to uplift that, because I think that that's a distinction that gets lost in the sauce sometimes. So I often think about the staff who work there, exactly, who needed their jobs to sustain their families. Thank you, Maria. That's something that we need to continually uplift in these discussions, because eran gente que estaban laborando, que estaban trabajando, and they don't often get mentioned with the respect that they deserve in these conversations. So from what we saw, from New York City to the Dominican Republic, we organized. We organized fundraisers. We've launched awareness campaigns. We filled the streets with vigils, with community prayer. We saw our people show up digitally and physically to support one another through the pain. Here at the Latino Social Work Coalition, we immediately activated our network. We started working with NAMI NYC, which is an organization that offers bilingual mental health resources. And we activated a bilingual mental health resource line, helping connect families here in the States to culturally rooted bilingual care, and supporting community-led spaces for grief and remembrance. And this is what the strength of our diaspora looks like, not just reacting to a tragedy, but responding with intention, with purpose, with love, and with resources, right? With infrastructure. Next slide. Go ahead, Yuri.
So now we're going to open a little frequently asked questions, but also we want you to type them if you have thoughts. We're going to open the mic if you want to share something still. So who are you holding into your heart today and tomorrow and yesterday? It is important for us to remember the people that we lost, the people that we connect with, but also to hold them into a clear space. A lot of times when people die or we have a loss, we do tend to, when we finish processing, just push it away because we think the feeling is going to go away. If you're feeling that and you feel like it's not there, I do encourage you to reach out for help. Like Lisa said, Manny, it has amazing resources for mental health, the coalition as well. Then we need to start thinking what healing looks to you. We just share some of the things that in the Dominican Republic and they do in order for them to start healing. But what it looks to you, it looks different to all of us. Again, for me, it's café con galletica, right? That resigns to me that I'm going to go and I'm going to be there and I'm going to see this. When my grandma passed away 2 months ago, my first thing was like, oh, ¿a qué hora la hora santa? And it was like, oh, we're going to send her to the yard. I was like, if you don't do an hora santa in here in New Jersey, how I'm going to get closure? I need to see all this process because that's how I grew up with, seeing the process. El velorio, los 7 días, el rosario, all of that. I need that. We needed that. So they had to kind of do something in prom because everything was happening there. Not all of us could travel there. But I wanted to be able to have my process and see it, right? I needed to see el arreglo de flores. Yo tenía que ver todo. Yo tenía, even if she wasn't here, I needed to see everything. So I know it's true. So I can touch, so it can be real for me. And that's what healing looks to me. So now we're going to, again, open the chat for you. If you have thoughts, you can raise your hands to speak. Although I think only Mauricio can see you guys. But this is your moment. And thank you for being here and sharing with us. There is one question. ¿Cómo puedo sobrellevar una muerte si no puedo viajar? Bueno, como acabo de decir, ¿verdad? Para mí era importante ver el velorio, que hacen la oración, que tienen a la persona ahí, que hagan el café, la galletita, que todo el mundo se reúna en mi familia. Yo no pude viajar, ¿verdad? Mi hermana tampoco pudo viajar. So it was extremely hard for all of us to grasp the idea. Although she died here and they were sending her over there very quickly for, family reasons, but all her grandkids live here. So it wasn't real for us until we saw it. Thank you for asking. When my dad died, I could not grieve. Kills me now after many years. What can I do now? Thank you for sharing. I definitely think that processing in therapy, it's beautiful. You get to be in a space where you can really talk and be able to process your emotions, and talk about the good and the bad. A lot of times when somebody died, we immediately go into qué bueno era, how great that person was, and all these good things. And we tend to push aside the bad, but the bad is part of who we are, right? We all have our demons to fight. We should be talking about the good and the bad. Therapy is going to help you tremendously to be able to process, and a good therapist is going to be able to help you walk through that alley. Luisa, if you open the frequently asked questions, and the questions will pop in there.
I see them. I do want to say something about this last question that was asked about processing delayed grief. I think it's important to understand the timing of things and to ask yourself, what is calling to you? What is allowing this grief to surface now? Is it a transition? Is it a milestone? Is it something that has happened that's unearthing, or is calling you to unearth this old pain? And to give yourself a little bit of grace and realizing that your nervous system may have waited until it felt safe enough to grieve. So you don't really, you want to give yourself space to kind of understand where this delayed grief, which can often be complex grief, is coming from now. A good therapist, a good social worker will help you navigate these things in a way that is best conducive for you. I'm a big fan of journaling and engaging in creative expression to kind of help you release and understand your emotions. And I'll end by saying that you should really, and this is part of giving yourself grace, is to let yourself feel your grief without a timeline. One of the things that I've seen a lot in our community in the past month has been kind of like this rush, right? To pasó la tragedia, hicimos la vigilia, vimos lo velorio, it was all over the news, it was all over the radio, and then the following weekend, you know, it was like Easter or something, and we moved on to Easter. We need to give ourselves time to grieve. Like Yuri talked about earlier, the 5 stages of grief. These things are not going to happen in order, and they're not going to happen when you want them to happen. You know, it could be 6 months from now, and we're going to, you know, still be in depression mode, or in acceptance mode, or in questioning, bargaining mode. And these things will happen out of order, depending on what you have going on in your personal life and how safe you feel to acknowledge your grief and to touch it, you know, to poke it a little bit with a pencil and to face it head on. So, you know, all that to say that grief is very complex. It does not affect everybody the same way. And you have to give yourself grace and give yourself space and give yourself time in order to process it. And there's no correct way to do it. Because if you go down that route of it has to look this way and it has to feel this way, you're going to be hurting for a really long time. You're going to be hurting for a really long time.
I really like what Maria said in the chat, right? Grieving is a long process. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen that you're going to wake up one morning and it's going to be gone, right? I mentioned earlier that you might go through the stages of changes, and when acceptance comes is when you actually start healing. But acceptance can take years. Acceptance can take decades of your life because you're not ready to deal with that, right? I think Jorge said in the chat that, you know, how do you forget somebody that you love so much and they're not here? I don't think that's impossible. It's impossible for you to completely grieve them because their love is never going to leave you. All we learn is how to live with that, celebrate their lives, celebrate, you know, who they were, celebrate the good that they brought into our lives, and celebrate those moments. I think De Leon Jari mentioned that it's better to leave, to have them leave and remember who they were. A lot of times, yeah, you celebrate who they are and you celebrate all these beautiful things about people, and you tell people and when they're alive, I love you, right? But we might also tell them, I hate you, because those are emotions with humans. It's normal. We're not always going to have the space to love people every day, all day. So that is important. When we love them hard and give them space. But for ourselves, when they're not longer here, we need to continue carry on those I love yous that I have for you. The reason why I say I love you to you, the reason why you were so important to me. Again, we're not going to be the perfect humans every single moment. And a lot of times what we tend to do is when we're doing that bargaining stage, right? You're like, oh my God, ¿por qué no hice esto? ¿Por qué no te hice lo otro? You cannot get back that moment. But that's your process, and that's the moment that you need to be able to continue healing and moving forward with your life, because that gives us a little peace at the moment. And maybe we stop there, right? We don't continue. And we put it aside because that's who we are, and we continue moving very, very fast. However, one moment, this is going to come back like, hey, remember me? I'm still here waiting for you to address me, waiting for you to acknowledge that I happened and that I was part of your life and I'm not there anymore. Grieving is very personal.
I'm sorry, Yuri, I didn't mean to interrupt. I want to acknowledge Christian's question, which ahora se me perdió. Espérate. ¿Cómo identificamos la insensibilidad emocional? So how do we recognize emotional numbness in ourselves and others? This is an excellent question, because this is we see a lot of this, particularly around death. And recognizing emotional numbness, whether it's in ourselves or in other people, requires paying attention to our patterns and patterns of disconnection, both emotional and physical. And it shows up. And the thing I want to say about emotional numbness is that it shows up as a protective response in the face of overwhelming stress, of trauma, of grief, of burnout, which are four things that we have seen repeatedly with this tragedy and that we see repeatedly when loved ones pass away. Um, in yourself, look at your emotional cues. Is there a flatness or an emptiness? Are you just going through the motions without any real highs or lows? Is there a lack of joy or even a lack of sadness? You're doing, there are things that once upon a time you loved doing and now you don't really care. Or the opposite direction. You don't really have painful experiences or reactions to things. Avoidance. You can be avoiding situations that are going to provoke strong feelings, whether it's listening to certain music or hay una comida que te recuerda a esa persona, hay algún sitio que you used to go to and now you don't want to go there anymore, or conversations, even thinking about conversations that you had with people. These are all things that can point to avoidance. And then irritability. This is the most common one, irritability or shutting down. The numbness can sometimes mask irritability. It can mask as irritability. Excuse me, I'm forgetting how to speak English and Spanish. And quick emotional shutdowns when things get intense. And in other people, these cues can look the same way. Sometimes folks lean into perfectionism or overfunctioning. I am 100% guilty of this. If there is a tragedy, if someone passes away, I got to fix it. I got to do all of the things because I'm not going to sit, with my feelings. I'm going to keep busy so that I don't have to sit with my feelings. In other people, it might look like substance use or overeating or overworking, or the opposite of that, not eating at all, or you can't even get up from the couch. These are all coping mechanisms to stay numb. And a lack of reaction to major events. I think Yuri mentioned earlier the situation in Gaza. I think a lot of people feel very impotent and like there's nothing that they can do to ease it. So, not having a reaction to what you see in the news every day might be a symptom of this. And, what you want to do when you recognize it is to don't force an emotion. If you don't feel happy, you don't feel happy. If you're not feeling particularly sad, don't feel that either. Just let it, just sit with it and recognize and be curious instead of pressuring yourself to feel things. And ask open-ended questions to yourself or of others about when was the last time that they felt fully present and what is stopping you from fully feeling in the moment right now. Again, I'll say it again, this is where excellent therapy comes into play. You want to engage your body, and there's some excellent somatic therapeutic practices like movement, like breath work, like grounding that can reconnect people to sensation and to feeling. And then finally, you want to normalize it. Again, grief is very complex, and letting people know that and letting yourself know that numbness is common after trauma or prolonged stress. It's not a failure. You're not failing at anything. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just data. It's information. Your body is telling you something. And now it's up to you to do something about it or to sit with it for a little bit until you determine what the right thing to do is.
Yeah. Let me read another question that we had. How can I prepare for a family member dying? This is very common, actually. And there's many groups that you can look for depending on the situation, right? I can tell you, for example, there's many cancer support groups for people who are terminally ill, and that's the last stage. Is really much not they can do for families, for people to prepare. You can also ask a family member, how would you like to be remembered? How would you like for me to celebrate your life? I like to say that death and grieving is a celebration of the person's life. Um, and I will tie this to the Leah who those moving on means that I didn't love them enough. No, moving on means that you actually honoring their life by you living yours. And most amazing, perfect, imperfect way that you want to live that life, you should celebrate the people that are gone by living your life. I'm sure if they love you the same way, they will want you to be happy and to do all these things. Can you laugh, Delina? Yes. Can you have fun again? Yes. You should live your life 100% because this is how you're going to be able to heal, but also honor that person. Let's say, uh, a husband, a wife died unexpectedly. Your husband, your wife would love for you to love again and happy. And you're probably never going to love with the same intensity that you love this person, but you will love again. You will be happy again. You will have all these feelings. And it's okay for you to be happy again after a death, after such a traumatic experience. It will take time, probably. Probably not. Probably take a year and you meet someone who is as kind and lovely. It's okay to recognize the feelings of wanting to move on and not to be sad anymore. I think Angel said it well. He said, no te mueras con tus muertos. You had to continue living, right? We put people in the ground, we mourn them, we suffer for them. Sometimes when you see a family sleeping away because of illness, it's extremely draining, extremely painful to watch a loved one being gone and slippery, something that you cannot do anything about it, right? Like the Gaza, something that we don't have the power to stop it. But how do you implement the healing of moving on, accept that this person is gone, that you did everything you could and you love them with all the passions while they were here. And now that they're not here anymore, you can be happy and content that you did everything you could. So just laugh again and have fun again. And if you feel like you can't, get a therapist, any therapist, or your best friend. Tell them everything.
Or one of the therapists from psychotherapy consultation services, which I will give you the information for soon.
Any therapist, get it. Uh, I think,
I think,
yeah.
no, I was going to say, I think Frederick said something. I've been thinking about how many individuals in DR when this happened were both grieving and taking action to support one another, those impacted by the incident. Absolutely, Frederick. The response that I've seen, not just here, but across the Dominican Republic and across the world, has been nothing short of extraordinary. And it's really emblematic of who we are as a community, and not just as a community, but as a people. Dominicans show up for each other, and like even hosting a community event like this, sometime after the tragedy happened, and the number of people that are here, and just the number of people that have been continually asking for spaces like this where we can unpack, where we can grieve together, where we could have a conversation about, maybe you should have an advance directive with your family and normalize conversations about death, and make plans for when it happens. We show up for one another with our time, with our treasure, with our knowledge. You have a world-class clinician here, in Yuri Hernandez. Maria Lizardo is a community leader that has been doing work in our community for many years. And the National Dominican Day Parade, as a whole, has really led the way in a lot of these community-based initiatives to support our community, to support our people. So thank you for pointing that out, Frederick, because it's a huge part of who we are as Dominicans. Let's see. So I think we answered all of the questions did we answer o se me escapó alguna?
No, there is just questions about therapy being expensive. Please, they're not. I can tell you the community clinics are free a lot of times. They take people without insurance. They have plenty. Please go to any of the websites for Mina or the coalition. We have plenty of resources there in Spanish, English for you to see. There's plenty of free at no cost of therapy. I'm sorry that your husband thinks therapy is a waste of time. Trust me, I have many husbands like that. It takes time. but maybe you can start the work and then you can spread it around your family. I can tell you that as Dominicans, we don't like therapy porque esa vaina no funciona, pero, right, we're changing, we're evolving. I worked in Washington High for 5 years in one of my mental health clinics, and I can tell you that the population that we served in that community, it's 100% Latina. And in the last 5 years, I saw tremendous increase of people coming and looking for services. Y los padres era que traían a los nenes para terapia. So we changing, we making a little strides, not a lot, but no. And grieving therapy is not expensive. It's you just need to look for a therapist that had the expertise to hold the space for you. And again, we have plenty of resources in the coalition and in Manny that you can find. We can put the website for Manny as well up.
Yeah, so I'm
Also,
gonna, I wanna touch on that. I want
go
to touch on that. And I also want to say, I want to highlight something that Maria just said about another tragedy that our community faced years ago, which is Flight 587 in 2001, when that plane sadly crashed off of the Rockaways. And I think it was Congressman Espaillat who mentioned at one of the vigils that we had this past month that we've been here before. As a community, we have been here before and we have found collective spaces and collective healing with one another. So this is not the first time that we have experienced a collective tragedy like this one. I hope it is the last time, but it's certainly not the first time. And we did it then and we will do it now. About the mental health resources, if we can put our slides back up, please. I want to share the resources that we have compiled for the community. This will answer the question about the cost of mental health resources. So while they pull that up,
of these services.
thank you. Okay, so call to action, and I do want to be respectful of folks' time. If there was a question that we did not answer, you're going to have our emails and you're going to have a way to contact us so that we can continue the conversation. So we get asked a lot, how do we make an impact? What can we do in the face of this crisis? Because like I said before, grief calls us to feel, but it also calls you to act. And action is how we protect each other. So here's what you can do. Support healing spaces like this one. Grief circles and mental health workshops that are being held in the community. This is a great example of what that looks like. There are others, and we can point you in the right direction if you're looking to either participate in that or support that or be in one way, shape, or another part of something like that. You can donate to grassroots groups that are doing on-the-ground work, like the Jompeame Foundation in the Dominican Republic. I will share that information shortly. But perhaps the most important thing that you can do is to use your power and your voice to stand up and to advocate for yourself and for our communities, whether it's for stronger safety protections both here and in DR. We're not going to it's important to have that conversation, or for real mental health infrastructure and support. We need to get together, not just in moments of crisis, but always, to ensure that our community has the resources that it needs. Next slide. So we pulled together some resources for those that are looking to get involved or to receive support. We have the Dominican Consulate here in New York City. There's a website. I urge you to take a screenshot of this page if you want to visit any of these web pages. So we have the Dominican Consulate. We have the index, the Instituto de Dominicanos en el Exterior. They have a list of resources as well. And like I mentioned before, the Jompeame Foundation, which is helping families directly affected by the jet set. I want to highlight again that a vast majority of the people that passed were working class people, and those families that they left behind need support in order to get by. We also invite you to visit the Latino Social Work Coalition's website and stay informed about our advocacy, about our mentorship programs, and about our healing initiatives. We're going to be continuing this work beyond today with more of these sessions, with more support, and with more policy and advocacy in the horizon. Next slide. I love our website, but can we go back to, thank you. Next slide. And then for the person who was asking about the cost of mental health resources, I urge you to use this hotline. This is 100% free, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., where they can connect you, where this is a confidential mental health support in English and Spanish. Again, this is Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. This is a helpline that will work with you through your grief and then connect you to resources that are at your financial reach. So mental health is not a luxury. It is not something that is out of the reach of people. You can find, and there are affordable, accessible mental health resources for folks that are experiencing grief, and they are at your disposal. Thank you, Marcelo, for dropping that in the chat. Next slide, which I now don't remember what it is. And then if you want to get in contact with us, Yuri and I are probably the easiest people in the world to reach. My email is there, president@latinosocialworkcoalition.org. And you can please take a screenshot of this, and you can also reach Yuri and her practice at www.psychotherapy-today.com. And she has a practice with, as she said before, there you go, there's her beautiful website with a number of culturally competent mental health professionals in a variety of specialties and areas and services. And I think thus concludeth our presentation.
Well, thank you.
So much.
No, you say your thank yous first.
I was going to say thank you so much to everybody who, show up and was part of this space. Thank you for Maria for coming and moderate and help us here. Thank you for everyone who asked questions and was able to share space for everybody else.
Yes, thank you so much.
On behalf of the National Dominican Day Parade Board, I do want to thank Luisa and Yuri for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. And I think these conversations are super important because we need to normalize it in our community and chip away at the stigma. So people who need support, who need a therapist, they do it without any shame, and and they have a community that will support them. So thank you so much. And the parade, we will continue to have these conversations. We'll continue to bring experts. So please feel free to sign up on our website at www.natddp.org. For more information, you can sign up for our listserv. And as I started the conversation earlier, we're more than just a parade. So we're here to uplift the Dominican community, and all our allies are welcome to join us on this journey. For Yuri and Luisa, thank you so much. This was super helpful and informative tonight.
Thank you for having us and inviting us.
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much to you. Our deepest gratitude to Dominican Day Parade and its leadership. This is a timely and necessary conversation. And to everybody who joined us, thank you. Your presence is powerful. Your grief is valid, and your healing matters to us, to Nat DDP. So thank you for trusting us and for joining us this evening. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Al merengue. So you already know what that means.
When we talk about Dominican heritage, understand the priority that we have as an administration.
This is an important year. The parade is moving forward. It gives scholarships to young people, but it's a great platform to showcase our accomplishments.
As you know, this is the kickoff for the National Dominican Day Parade. The legacy has been that all the boroughs celebrate, collaborate, partner with the National Dominican Day Parade.
Gracias por cubrir, por venir a apoyar este evento, que es no solamente de la comunidad dominicana. This is not our community event. This is a Dominican community event. This is all of our community.
Digamos el más perseverante, el más adulto. El del corazón de Manhattan.
We are celebrating the Dominican Day Parade celebrating the ethic of who we are. Lo más alegre del mundo.
No podemos hacer nada sin los espacios. Tenemos que primero tanto la parada.
Hey New Yorkers, it's Mayor Mike Spanos from the city of Yonkers, and we are in celebration of the Dominican heritage here in our region. Obviously, the National Dominican Day Parade that's going to happen in New York City. All the fun festivities, our honorees that are being honored today.
Ay, no, yo me voy a meter para allá para que me
Here, I want to say thank you to them for social services. I want to thank the New York City HPD, Housing Preservation Development Corporation. These are all resources that we're providing our local communities.
Hoy celebramos el desfile nacional dominicano del 2024 to our third annual celebration of the Dominican community in Manhattan of the amazing National Dominican Parade happening in a week and a half. We are celebrating the Dominican community today. Okay. Si alguien aquí es de Manhattan,
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, I remember that night. I was so pregnant. Wait, no.
We're so pregnant.
2004.
I don't hear what she's saying, pero está bien.
I love us.
Five.
Literally the best parade, like, in the world.
Literally. I'm gonna have to run because I have early morning. I guess we'll debrief.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Marcelo, are you there?
Look at the kiddo. So lindo, lo chichi.
I don't see anything. What do you see? Oh, espérate.
The video.
Oh, there we go.
Marcelo, dímelo.
Marcelo. Oh. Hi.
Marcelo.
Good night,
We're
everyone.
done. Yeah, good night, everyone.
I think we
Okay.
still have about 5 participants.
Yes. Yes.
Good night,
Okay.
everyone.
Good night, Maria.
Night,
Thank you for letting me be a part of this. Se me cuidan.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.